You know Christmas Vacation, when they're at the dinner table and they cut open the turkey and it opens up and it's just dry mess? That's going to be you in a few weeks if you don't listen to us.
We did a couple simple experiments to figure out the best way to keep your turkey moist and flavorful for this upcoming wonderful family holiday. So to start the experiment off, we made a simple brine solution, which was 6% salt, 6% brown sugar, and the rest water. And we put our chicken breast into the brine solution and let it sit for about 6 hours.
For the butter one, we used, I think, 2 tablespoons of butter with a clove of garlic that I mixed together, and I put that underneath the skin of one of the chicken breasts before cooking it.
Right, so the control we didn't do anything to, and then the basting we also didn't do anything to before cooking, and then every 20 minutes of cooking time, we opened the oven, basted it with chicken stock, and put it back into the oven.
We didn't do it by time. We used a thermometer that we stuck into each chicken breast, and we did it until the internal temperature reached 165 degrees.
Which is the safe eating temperature for poultry.
Yes, and then we let each chicken breast set for 5 minutes before we weighed.
Yes, so we took the weight of the chicken breast before we put it into the oven.
After a quick run on the treadmill, then we took the weight afterwards to see how much it slimmed up.
Since the chickens all started at different weights, we did want to account for and look at if there was any impact on the time in the oven. So you would think that the ones that spend the most time in the oven are probably going to lose the most moisture. So we looked at a % loss per minute. So that accounts for both the time that it's in the oven
and the initial weight. In addition to seeing how much it lost by its weight, we also did a taste test at the end because we wanted to kind of compare how much moisture it kept in and the overall flavor, texture, and satisfaction that we had out of that.
Yeah, so when we were reading about different ways of cooking turkey, a lot of people said that, yeah, brine keeps it moist, but the turkey kind of gets washed out. So we wanted to see if there were any impacts on taste.
Yes, we questioned the man.
We did question the man.
F you, man.
That's not very nice. Now for the results. It's a hat.
Well, hello there. Do I look beautiful?
So looking at % loss per minute, the baste and the brine tied at 0.35% per minute. So that means that 0.35% of the initial starting weight was lost per minute in the oven. A close second or third, depending if you count, if they're 1 and 2, was the control, which lost 0.355% per minute. And then the loser, which unsurprisingly was butter under the skin, which lost 0.394% of its initial weight per minute in the oven.
Yes.
So that means that the butter one lost its weight more quickly, I think because it didn't have that protective layer, and then the brine and, oh no, coffee down.
Sorry, continue.
Things had to be done. The brine and the baste were the best at retaining moisture, so they lost the least amount of moisture over time in the oven. We think that the butter under the skin dried out the fastest because by dislodging the skin to get the butter in there, that protective layer kind of shrunk up when it was cooking, and we think that that provided a route for more. We think that the chicken that was basted, while basting is not going to put any moisture back into the actual flesh of the chicken, we noticed that the skin didn't get so crispy, so we think we kept that layer hydrated, and therefore it kept everything underneath it from drying out.
Yes.
I think in the case of the brine solution, you have a salty solution outside and you have a chicken, which we can look at as just a bag of water on the inside, and because of osmosis, the salt and water concentrations are going to want to equal out.
Yes.
So as the chicken sits in the brine, more salt goes into the flesh of the chicken, and in theory some water will go out of the chicken. But here's what I think happens, is that the chicken is made up of all these different proteins. And by putting salt around these proteins, they're no longer organized in these long, tough muscle fibers that shrink as you cook them, but instead the salt gets in the way and messes up those muscle fibers. So they, instead of being these like long spindly things that shrink in the oven, they kind of break down a little bit and lose their structure. So they're not going to shrink up in the oven, and they're able to trap moisture in those little spaghetti buckets that they make.
That's what I think.
The brine chicken, surprisingly, was quite delicious and salty, and it
Yes.
tasted like chicken, and it was moist. The last one that we tasted was the basting chicken.
And that was a soggy chicken.
Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, it had a very weird texture. You can see from the pictures, but it just, not very appetizing even a day or two later being in the fridge.
So I think overall, based on our moisture retention
Based on what? Sorry.
Based on our moisture retention and our flavor, I would recommend the brine. I think moving forward, if you have the time, I would brine. If you're interested in learning more about the science behind keeping your chicken or turkey moist, there's some links below.
Or keeping yourself moist. There's some links below.
There's some links below that attempt to explain some of the science behind what we observed in the kitchen. And we hope that everyone has a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching. This has been How About That? I'm Jen.
I'm Tom, and sorry for everyone who hates the word moist, that we used it a few times during this episode.
Moist.
Moist.